right, we have some updates regarding the San Francisco 49ers. I know a lot of people were waiting to hear about Kalia Davis and Ricky Pearsall if their window was going to be open to return from IR. And we got some good news and maybe some news where you're like, it's a little bit of a bummer, but I don't think it's too much to worry about. And we also have some roster moves that we have to discuss regarding all of these situations. But before we can get into that, this video is brought to you by my bookie, celebrating 10 years of excellence in the betting space. They are absolutely phenomenal at what they do, and who doesn't want to get in on the action? It makes these games way more enjoyable. You have every available bet at your fingertips. You can do it on your phone. All you got to do is go to the link in the description, use my promo code SF9ers, and you could also get up to $1,000 deposit match and a $10 casino chip when you play with my bookie. Again, 10 years in the business. They know what they're doing. This is a company that you want to tap in with if you are interested in getting in on the action. But I know what you're interested in. You are interested in the updates. You're interested in what's going down. And what is going down is good news. Let's go with the good news. Kalia Davis is and has been had his window opened up for him to be able to return from IR. Now, there's a 21-day window, so it doesn't mean he is necessarily going to play in this coming week against the Cardinals, but it also doesn't mean he isn't. So you have that. So that's good news. There's a really good chance, though, that I do think Davis plays in this game because 49ers need the defensive line depth, and he played really, really well during the preseason, really kind of showcased his growth as a player. And so I do think he is a person who could absolutely return. Now, a lot of people have been waiting to hear about Ricky Pearsall, and the hope is that he was going to be ready to go for this week against the Cardinals, but the 49ers have not opened up his window, which means at minimum, there's another week left on IR for him. This is kind of my thoughts on it. I do believe because they would have to make a roster move with Davis and opening up his window, they need the depth at defensive tackle, and they don't have to cut anyone. So with opening up his window, they're good. No additional roster move needs to happen. If they were to bring up both, someone would have to be released, and I don't think they want to release anyone, at least at this current time. So they're waiting off on that. That's my read on it. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if Ricky is or is not ready to go. By all accounts and all the reports that we had heard up until this point, it did sound like Ricky was trending in the right direction. And, he was angling from the hospital bed to be able to play against the Jets. So I'm sure Ricky wants to get out there. I know fans want to see him out there. I mean, just a remarkable story that he is even being considered as someone who can play this year for the 49ers. So I think we'll have to wait a little bit on that one. So we'll see next week. So they have up until Wednesday of next week to determine if his window will be open. And then at that point, they will have to make a corresponding roster move in order to open up that space for him. So TBD right now with Ricky Pearsall, but there's also some additional roster moves. The San Francisco 49ers brought back Tariq Owens, son of Hall of Famer Terrell Owens, who actually looked pretty decent in training camp. Unfortunately, he got hurt, and then he got released with an injury designation. And he wasn't picked up anywhere else. I'm going to be honest. I really didn't expect much from Tariq. To me, it felt a little bit like, okay, we'll get him into camp. We'll see what he does. But really, when he got into camp, he was making some plays out there. There were a couple instances, I remember, I was like, oh, he's actually pretty good. So I like that he's back. I actually think, he's back on his own merit. He's, I think that's part of the problems of living in the shadow of, a former great, a Hall of Famer, a guy who's been, super successful within this organization. You're like, oh, are you really good? Or is this like a favor potentially? But I do think Tariq Owens has some legitimate potential. So Don't mind that. The 49ers also brought back Garvin. He was an addition in training camp. He played in the UFL, I believe it's called now, and or XFL. I can't keep up with how many of the offseason leagues there are. But he returns defensive end depth to the practice squad. The 49ers released Shaquille Brown really shortly after they added him to the practice squad this week. So those are the roster moves that were made. But again, the big news of the day was getting some players back from injured reserve. Kalia Davis will be the first to be able to make an impact out of the two players, and it'll be another week until we see what's going on with Ricky Pearsall. But you guys let me know what you think about these updates. What are your thoughts on them bringing back Davis, waiting on Pearsall, maybe some of the roster moves that they've made for the practice squad? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.